Okay, cool. I'm gonna guess that's my cue to start. Okay, so hey guys, welcome to the talk on Android development, and this is pretty much an introduction to Android Studio. And just for those who don't know, who don't have background with Android, um, Android Studio is basically a platform which you use to build Android apps. And one thing that I want people to keep in mind is, for the sake of this talk and for most basic Android apps, you don't actually need an Android phone or device to test it. And so what we're going to do here, we're going to use an emulator. So even if you are, you have your iPhones, but you still want to build apps, to a good extent, you can do it without an Android phone. So I just want people to keep that in mind. Yeah, cool. So let's just go ahead and get started. Oh my God. There we go. Okay, so what really is Android? Android is an operating system just like your Windows, just like iOS. It's just an operating system that's on phones, tablets. Now it's also on TVs, smart speakers, and it's a Linux kernel-based operating system. This is just a general idea. You don't need to read much into this, and this information doesn't really gonna help you with building the application, but it's just a good thing to know. Cool. So what are we really going to be doing through this talk? I'm going to start off with a basic introduction to Android Studio, what features you have, what different things you can do with it. And then we're going to work on making a basic tic-tac-toe app. And I'm going to walk you guys through it. We're going to work on it together. And through the process, we're going to learn some basics of Java and XML. XML is what you're going to use for the interface, the graphic user interface, and design aspect, and Java is what you're going to use for actually coding the functionality onto this app. So I guess before we get started, I just want people to give me a quick yes or no reaction in the participants tab on whether you guys have background in any form of coding, whether it's Python, JavaScript, Scratch, or fancy C, C++, all of that. So if you want to give me a quick yes or no. Cool. I see pretty much yeses. I don't see any no's. So that's good. It'll just only help you out, but even if you don't have it, it doesn't hurt. You can still figure it out on the way. Cool. So okay. So the most important thing is you need to have Android Studio on your laptop or your computer. So I believe that you should have been asked to download this before you came, but if you haven't, here's the link. I don't know if I can put this in the chat. But yeah, just download this. If people are having issues with this download, then just at any point stop me, let me know, raise your hand, put it in the chat, and someone will try and help you out, if not me. All right. So now let's just go and dive into the actual features. So how do you create a project? Cool. Yeah. So you have the link in the chat. So yeah, how do you create a project? As soon as you open Android Studio, the first thing you're gonna see is yeah, it's gonna be this page right here, this start a new project or open an existing project. So we're gonna start by starting a new one. So click on the start a new project, and then one thing you're gonna have is it'll open up to a bunch of different projects you can open. And the good thing about this is, based on what you want, Android Studio already has a bunch of built-in implementations of apps. But what we're going to do is take an empty activity, so it really does nothing at this point, and we're just going to build on what we want it to do. And then you're going to be asked to give it a name. Make sure you select the language as Java. There's also Kotlin as an option, but we're going to stick to Java for this this talk. And then, okay, so now once you do this, you now have a project. And if you look at your project, you will see that there are two main tabs on the top. One is going to be this activity main, .xml and one's in .java. And the XML is basically where you're going to have all your design aspects, where you can decide what buttons, what text, what colors, all of that is going to be done through your XML tab. And through the other .java tab is where you're going to write all the code. For example, okay, if I press this button, go ahead and print that, and things like that. Oh, yeah, sorry. Are there issues? Okay, am I going too fast? Because yes, I wanted you to follow along with me. If I'm going too fast, I will slow down. Okay, quick question. Does everyone have Android Studio downloaded? And how many people are with me and not with me right now? Oh, you're just waiting for it to install. All right. Okay, let's just give it a minute or two then. How are people's days going until then? I feel the slow day. Um, okay, just a general vote. Can I also have people just vote yes or no if they have Android Studio downloaded or not? I want to know if it's everyone who is waiting on it or not. Okay. So I think half the people have it and half the people do not right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slowly go through this, and hopefully people can just listen in and who are still installing it and catch up. But I'm right now just going through and showing you different features. So hopefully you'll have everything pulled up by the time we get to actually writing code. Um, cool. So yeah, you have two different aspects. You have your design, and then you have the code part of it. Um, so looking at the design, there are three different views. So if you go to the top right corner, you can see that there's these three different views here. The view that I'm showing you right now, that's the visual view, basically, where all you can see are, if you put a button, you can see a visual button, you can see a text box, you can just see the image as an image of what your app will look like. If you go all the way to the left of those three buttons, then you have the same thing but written as code. And there are advantages to both. The advantage of visual is obviously that you can see what's happening. It'll help you understand how things are going to look. But if you're looking at code, it's a lot easier to manipulate different features because it's just typing it out instead of right-clicking and finding things which are complicated. So in terms of alignment, in terms of features, the code view is a lot better. Which is why, personally, I prefer the in-between one, where you have both the visual and the code. So you can drag in a button where you want, and then you can type in and code in all the information, which is a lot easier to do. So this is the design part of it. And now this is something you will actually find all the way on your left of your screen. So initially, all you will see is the main activity. You will not have second and third. And I'll show you in a bit how you create the second and third. But basically, the main activity is the difference between these three activities is, for example, if you have three different pages. If I click on a button, open a new page. Click on a button, open a new page. Then you will be creating different activities. And this sidebar that you have here is basically your navigation, where you can go through the different designs that you have, the different code that you have. Cool. People still with me so far? Take that as yes. All right. So this is a part that I want people to set up. So quick question along where we are in terms of installing. Does everyone have it installed now? We're still struggling with that. Ah, still installing. Oh my god. Okay. Do you know how far along we are, or you are on installing this? Yeah, I'm just concerned that, we may not have enough time to get to the code, because that's honestly the meat of this whole presentation. Um, an empty activity. Um, yeah, you want to do an empty one. Um, yeah, so the split screen that you were talking about, this one, yeah, this is ideally the better one to look at. But it doesn't matter. It's really easy to toggle between the three. Whichever one is easier, nicer for you, you can always switch to that one. All right, so I'm really sorry, but I'm gonna go ahead and get started with this. And I guess if you have issues, just like text me in the side, and I'll try and help you out with this. But this is the part I want people to follow along with. So we're gonna set up the virtual emulator, which what you're gonna need to test this device or to test your entire app. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna go to Tools all the way in the top, and you're gonna click on the AVD Manager. And once you click on that, you're gonna open up to a blank screen pretty much, which has this create virtual device button on the bottom. All right? So far so good. You're gonna click on that, and now it's gonna come up to this choose a device information. Device definition. So pick pretty much any phone that you want. Completely up to you. I just picked the Pixel 2 here just because it was there. But pick whatever you want. When you say next, it's preferable to do the Q as your select system image. This is it's not the latest release, but it's right now one of the most stable ones. So it's the API level 29. So just, select that. And when you click on next, you will open up again to this verify configuration thing. Make sure you select portrait and then finish. All right, so let me just go through that again real quickly. You're gonna click on Tools, AVD Manager. You're gonna go to Create Virtual Device. And in Create Virtual Device, you will pick some device from this whole drop down that you're gonna get. You're gonna say Next, and you're gonna pick Q as your system image. Again, click on Next. Oh my god, 1 second. What's in the chat? Oh, you have to download Q? Geez, is it gonna take a long time? Okay, let's hope it's not too bad. So yeah, once you get to Q, you're gonna click on Next. And then this part's pretty simple. You want to just make sure it's just portrait. I think by default it is portrait, but make sure it's portrait. And click on Finish. So I'm going to give you guys a minute. Hopefully most people get this done. And when people start getting done, I guess just put like either a yes or a thumbs up or something in the participants so I know that people are there. Okay. Also, there are a few yeses in the participants. I want to make sure that this is because of this question and not some old thing that's just still there. Okay, I see a couple of yeses. Okay, I see more. Okay, okay. So I'm gonna keep moving because I don't want to wait way too long. So, right, so once you guys have set this up, if you just click on this run button, and this might take a couple of seconds too, if you click on this run button that you will see, make sure your drop down matches whatever phone you picked. If you click on the run button, then it should open up to your emulator. The first time typically takes a little longer, so I want you guys to get started right away. So by the time we get there, it'll actually open up. All right, we good to keep going? Okay, I'm not getting a response. But if people are like, having issues with installation and they want me to come jump back to the slide at any point, let me know and I'll just jump back. All right, awesome. So now we have an emulator set up, which is great because now we can run our code somewhere. Cool. Yeah, so we're gonna keep going. All right, so now we're just gonna work on our app, which is tic-tac-toe. So this is a general idea of what our design goal will be. This is kind of how we want it to look. Obviously, you can make it prettier and everything. I'm just kind of focused on getting some kind of a design and some kind of implementation because I want you guys to be able to try out both of them and to get a basic understanding so you can build on it as much as you want. So the general features of how this app's going to look is you're going to have this grid is basically 9 different buttons. And depending on whose turn it is, when you click on it, it becomes an X or an O, right? And then every time someone wins, that player gets, a point incremented. And also, we're going to have a toast. And for those of you who don't know what a toast is, it's like a tiny notification thing that comes here, just like a small pop-up which says, oh, player 1 won, or player 2 wins. And we're also going to have a reset button. When you click on this, then all of this goes back to being just empty, no X's, no O's, and everyone's score goes back to 0. So this is the general goal. So if I want to break this down, really for the visual aspect, you want to use what we call a text view, and I will, when I pull up the Android Studio like in a second, I'll show you exactly what that is. But for the text, which is that player 1, player 2 scores, we want to use something called text view. And we're going to use buttons for pretty much everything else. And now to position these in location, we're going to do something called a linear layout. So I'm going to go ahead and quickly stop sharing or share my whole screen so you guys can see my Android Studio as well. Give me a quick second. Cool. So you should see my slides right now. And what's happening? Okay. So I just pulled up an empty one, which is kind of what you guys should be seeing right now. I'm going to move this to the in-between view, just to confirm. You guys can see my Android Studio, right? Cool. Awesome. So this is what you have right now. It's by default like this hello world. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and delete this hello world. So it's deleted. It's not here anymore. And what's going on? Okay. And then now I want to add in a bunch of layouts. Now, if you guys remember what we're trying to make, right? We had this player 1, player 2 text box on the top and a reset next to that. So we want to put overall, because everything's one below the other, we want to go to layouts. And we want to do something called vertical layouts, which means we're having things stacked one below the other. So we added in a vertical layout. And now we want to split this into the text and reset on the top and the grid in the bottom. So we're going to add another linear layout for the top, which is what we're going to have our text and reset in. Now inside this layout, actually hold on, let me take that back. So we're going to first have a horizontal layout because you want to have text on one side and you want to have a reset button on the other. So we're going to add a horizontal layout. And within this horizontal layout, you're going to have another vertical and a button. So we're going to add one more vertical into that. Right, so if I were to draw that out for you guys, just to make it clearer, you basically have your whole screen. This is really bad. And then you have your bottom, you have your buttons. The top, you have your text of sorts. So you have a vertical layout. And then the top part, you split it into reset button and texts. And then the texts, go ahead and split into 2 texts. Right? So far, is everyone with me? I'm going to take that as yes. So now within this vertical layout in the top, we're going to add 2 text views. So we go into text, and it's something called text view, which is basically like a text box for people who are familiar with any other form of design. So we're going to add text box 1, which goes into this layer layout, which you can see here in this component tree area. And we also want to add another text box in here. So we have 2 text box. Now, if you look at this code here, you can see that these have IDs. And this ID is important because this is how we're going to refer to these text boxes when we're trying to edit them. So we're going to just change the ID to something better so we understand what's happening. The first text box, let me call the ID player 1. Maybe it's called player 1 score just to be better. And the second one, we'll call it player 2 score. Oh, I can't type, sorry. All right, and as a part of that, we're also going to have the text change to, initially we're going to have their score 0. So we're going to say player 1 equals 0. And same thing for the second text box. We're going to have player, why can I not type? Player 2, 0. All right, so we got these 2, so we got 2 different text boxes. Now, one problem that we can see here is that everything is really tiny, right? So you can't really read anything on this. So what I'm going to do to make this better is to increase size. And the way to do that is if I go here and I go to the next line, I can type Android. I can't spell again. And when I put colon, you can see that there's a whole bunch of options that come in. So these are all the different, what is it called? Attributes that we have, different things that we can change about the buttons, the text boxes, all of that. So I want to pick text size. So if I type text, you'll see that, text size, okay, you see text size shows up. So I want to put my text size, let's say 40. So I can do the exact same thing for the second one as well. Is everyone with me so far? Are things making sense? I'm going to take that as yes. Okay. Cool. At any point you guys have issues, stop me. Like, please feel free to stop me. Okay, so now we got this text box, and we want to add a reset button, right, in our layout, the horizontal layout, though. So we're going to go into buttons. We can just take a normal button. Now, when we add it in, make sure you add it in to the horizontal. If you see like the dotted lines, make sure that you get it into horizontal and not the vertical linear layout. So if you want to verify what you did, if you collapse this, you should be able to see these two inside linear layout. Horizontal. Right, so now I have a button. The button's here. I want to change my ID. Let's change it to reset because this is a reset button. Cool. I probably want to make it small R to stay consistent. Right, and okay, so an interesting thing that you can see here is something called weight. Now the thing about weight is it's basically because I've put both the widths as wrap content or match parent, what it basically does is it gives you, how much bigger one should be compared to the other within the layout. So when you say weight 1, that means they should be equal. When you give something a weight of 3, then it's going to be like 3:1 ratio. So yeah, that's something you can, another thing to remember. For the text, we can change this to reset. And let's also go ahead and make the size, let's say 40. Right? Cool. So we have this. So right now all we really have is a button. Another problem that, I guess if you look on the side, you can't really see anything. And this is because we have our linear layout size set to match parent. And what match parent really means is that the parent of this vertical layout is the one above the linear layout, and the linear layout's parent is the other linear layout. So basically we want to make it wrap content instead of match parent, because if you do match parent, it'll form the entire size. So you want to make it wrap content. And when you do that, it'll only just be as big as you need it to be, which is what we can see. Now we can see everything. So a good idea now would be just to run this and wait for the emulator to set up. Might take me also a second. You guys can see in the bottom that it says, executing tasks and that stuff. So, I don't know what's happening. So far, people here? Oh, okay. So, I see questions. Are there two screens just for light and dark mode? Yes, that's basically what it is, and it's useful mostly if you have different colors, because then you can see what's going on. Someone's XML editor isn't working. I'm sorry, I don't. Do you want to just tell me what you mean by not working? Do you want to just unmute yourself? It might be easier for me to understand.
It's not loading at all. It's saying that the design editor is unavailable until after a successful project sync. And whenever I try to run the sync function, it gives me a caused by org.codehouse.groovy.control multiple compilation errors exception. So, and I'm not too sure how to debug that.
Yeah, I have no idea what that means. Let's see. Wait, Anushka, do you think you can go into a breakout room and maybe help him out with that? It might be easier to work with if you can actually see a screen.
Okay.
I hope Anushka heard that. Anushka. Or not. Okay, wait, we'll get someone to come and help you out. people hear me? Because I feel like I'm frozen. Hey, I'm frozen. Can you guys hear me?
Why'd you call?
What?
You're unmuted.
Wait, I'm frozen. I can't see.
No, you're not frozen.
Okay, I cannot see anything. And can you guys see my screen moving? Because I can't see anything. I can't hear anything. I don't know what's going on. Okay, I have really no idea what's going on right now. And I can't hear anybody.
Hello?
Okay, I can hear you, but I can't move my mouse. I can't see anything. You guys see my screen? Is my mouse like moving and stuff?
I think it's just your screen that's frozen, but we can see your video and audio and hear your audio perfectly.
This is weird. I cannot see mine at all.
Like your screen?
Yeah, I can't. My screen's not moving. Nothing's moving. My laptop.
Yeah, it's not moving for us either, so.
Wonderful. Great. Good times. Okay, so I don't know like how I'm gonna do this. I'm just gonna keep talking, and I'm gonna hope this is people can follow along with what I'm saying until things fix itself. But okay, so we have essentially we have an overall vertical layout, and then we have a horizontal and a vertical inside it, right? So we've already put everything we need into the horizontal and the inner horizontal and vertical. So now we're going to go back to the outer vertical, and we want to create a grid, right, on the bottom of this horizontal and vertical layout. And so what we're going to do for that is to create a grid, it's essentially 3 rows, right? So we're going to just create 3 horizontal layouts and put button, button, button into each of the 3. So yeah, I can't show you because like I said, nothing's moving on my screen. I don't know what's going on. Can't even move my mouse. But yeah, I'm gonna hope you guys are able to work with this. So 3 horizontal layouts, and you're gonna put 3 buttons into each of them. And the way I would name these buttons would be like button underscore 000102, button underscore 101112, and then 202122. And the reason I'm saying this, and we'll see this a little bit like more in detail when we get to the code, why it's useful, but essentially we want to imagine this as a 2D list. And for those of you who don't know what a 2D list is, it's basically a list inside a list. So we're going to have essentially a list with the top row, a list with the middle row, and a list with the bottom row. And this whole thing would be inside a list. And so if you guys know how indexing works, it basically goes from 0, 1, 2. So we want to have row 0, 0, 1, row 2, and column 0, sorry, row 0, row 1, row 2, and column 0, column 1, column 2. And so we're going to name the buttons that way so it becomes really easy when we're trying to work with it when we're writing the code. So yeah, that's what I would do. I would set the text to like nothing for now in the buttons, and there's just going to be a grid of buttons. I wish I could move my screen to show you what's happening, but I cannot. So that's cool. Awesome. If someone can unmute yourself and just tell me that things are working or you guys have gotten this done, that would be real great. God. Okay, I'm gonna keep talking because I cannot see anybody at all. But I'm gonna keep going with this. Cool. So what we're gonna do once you have this is please run this to make sure you have, this design that we're looking for. And once this happens, we're gonna go into the code. So we're gonna go to the main activity Java, right? And within the Java, what we're gonna do is we're going to so what we're gonna do is we're gonna basically look at we're gonna start like writing the code basically. So the first task that we're gonna do by writing the code would be to create something called an on-click listener. And so an on-click listener is essentially, so an on-click listener is basically something that listens to whether you're clicking on a button or not. And so what we're going to do is we're going to loop through, so when the on create, which is the default function you should find there, you're going to loop through every single, you're going to loop through every single button. So the way you're going to do that is you're going to go from for, open parentheses, int I equals 0, colon, I lesser than 3, semicolon, I plus plus, you're going to close your parentheses, open curly bracket, and you're going to do the same thing, but do it for j. So within that, you're going to say for j, j equals 0, j less than 3, colon, j plus plus, and then you want to close your parentheses, and you want to open curly brackets, and then, just give me a second.
Hey,
What's going on? I don't know what's going on.
first of all, wait, you're not, wait, first of all,
My screen just went blank.
you're not unmuted, so do that first.
I can't do it. My screen's blank. My laptop's shut.
Okay. So you can't open Zoom, right? Or you can't interact with Zoom right now?
I can't even like interact with my laptop. I can jump on from my phone if that's gonna help, but
Okay, jump on your phone, restart your laptop, and then if there's enough wrap up things, but
Hi everyone. Okay, so we're having a few tech issues right now. So what we're going to do is I'm going to share the slides and the code in the chat. So if you guys want to finish up, you can look at that. What Shruti will do later is that she'll just record herself going through this entire thing again, and we'll just send it out to everyone who wants to go through it. But she'll come back soon to take questions though. So if you have any questions, feel free. But yeah, so here's the slides and here's the remainder of the lab. Yeah, sorry about that. Zoom is not the best. Does anyone have any questions? Yeah, thank you. Hey, Shruti's back.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I have no idea what just happened. My entire like screen blacked out. I couldn't see anything. I couldn't move my mouse. So that happened. So just because I got no feedback, were you able to create the entire grid like the way I was telling you guys to do it? I'm not sure what that means. Can someone just like shout it out in the chat? Just tell me where you guys are at.
Yeah, I was working on it and I was pretty close. I think I got the layout in and then it started like throwing errors at me and then I tried to run it. First I tried to run it before we put the buttons in and it said that my build failed. So I don't know why that happened.
Oh no. Okay. So I think what I'm gonna do now, just because I know we lost like a bit of time, I'm actually gonna open up my finished code and I'm gonna like go through with that instead of me typing it out as we go. I would have ideally liked to, but I think that's just gonna get really difficult right now.
Maybe later on, if you have time, not today, but like some other time, can you just record yourself going through the entire thing?
Absolutely, I can do that. I will send out like it's a tutorial of sorts. I can do that.
Thank you.
Of course. Yeah, I'm really sorry about this, guys. This is not meant to happen. Okay, so this is kind of like a finished code of what I have, but basically, we reached the reset button, right? So that we got. Now what I asked you guys to do was to create 3 different horizontal layouts right after that. And if you can see them highlighting up, each of these layouts are going to contain 3 buttons. And the way I've renamed them, like I said, is 000102. So in terms of code, what that really looks like is you have a layout, and inside the layout, you're going to have this. So you're going to have basically a button with some ID. And while the weight is 0, weight is 1. If you don't put in a weight, it will still automatically take it to be 1. Yeah, so you're going to have 3 different buttons, and basically what you do is just copy paste that chunk 3 times, right? And just make sure you change the names for the button, or the IDs for the button to this. The button underscore 101112, depending on which button you're looking at, right? Oh, why are IDs the add ID? Yeah, it is a formatting thing. It's just a way to, I guess, recognize that it's an ID and not like some random text. It's just like a differentiation metric. It's a way they differentiate it. Okay, I hope we're good on this front. If for now you guys just only did a few of the buttons, I think that's okay. We got a hang of it, and then you can like obviously go more detailed into this. And like I said, I will send out a tutorial after this. Cool. So now this is basically a general layout of our app. What we're going to do now is we're going to go into the main activity Java. Okay, and I'm going to just show you how it looks before and after. So this is what you're going to see in the beginning before you wrote any code on it. And what we wanted to make it look like is what I showed you on the other screen. So the first goal of what we want to do is we want to set what we call an on-click listener. And an on-click listener is basically something that's listening to the buttons at all points. And when it clicks, it does what we ask it to do on click. Right? So the way we're going to set that up, and I'm going to switch over again to the completed code, is we're going to first create this. So we're going to create like a 2D list of buttons. And what this line of code is doing is it's saying that you're going to create a button list which has new buttons, and it's a 3x3 list. Right? So this is the first thing you want to write down. Now one thing that's going to happen is when you write this, the word button is going to be like in red. I'll show you exactly what that means. If I write, let me copy and paste it so it's easy. if I write, this goes into main activity, sorry. Yeah, if I put this here, it's basically going to complain about this being in red. So the way you're going to fix this is you'll see this drop down, and you click on import class, and then it adds it in here. So what this basically does is it brings all the functionalities related to button into your code. Right, so now we have this, we've initialized this button list, and what we're going to do, I'm going to show you back here again, is we're basically going to go through every single list, every single button, and we're going to set an on-click listener on this. So the way we do this is we're going to use something called for loops, which basically says that we're going to create some integer I, which is initially equal to 0, and we're going to do I++, which means we're going to increment it. So we go from 0 to 1 to 3, we keep incrementing it, and this will keep happening as long as I is less than 3. So the second I becomes 3, it will stop happening. So you'll have I0, then I1, then I2, and then when I becomes 3, it'll say, oh no, I is not less than 3 anymore, and so we're going to move out of this loop, right? So we're going to do that for I from 0 to 3, and then j from 0 to 3. And this is basically like going through every row and every column. And what we're going to do now is we're going to create the ID. And this is why I said it's important to name the button's ID like as button 01, button 00. And what we do is we create the ID as button underscore IJ. So you go like button underscore 00, button underscore 01, right? And then now this line of code, it looks complicated, but essentially what it's doing is every button also has an ID in terms of numbers, which is what the computer understands it as. And so we're going to find this ID, and the way we're going to do this is we're going to something called get resources, get identifier. So we're going to identify the button given this ID that we created here. This code also I think should be up on the website, so you guys can look at this specifically when you're writing it down. And then now what we're going to do is we're going to find the button given this ID by find view by ID, and we're going to add that into our list, which is what we just created in the top. And then we're going to do something called set on click listener, and this is the important part. So we set an on click listener for this, and this means that like for this button. So what's going to happen when you set this on click listener is it's going to create a function called on click. So now what happens on click? This is a good idea to think about. What's going to happen when you get on click? When you click one of these buttons, what are you going to do, right? So now it's important that you want to keep track of whether you should have an X or you should have an O. And for that, we're going to create a new Boolean. A Boolean is basically a true or false, which says, okay, it's player one's turn or not player one's turn. And so when I write if player one turn, again, you'll have that red thing that shows up. And you're going to go all the way back to the top, and you're going to create a Boolean. And initially, you're going to say player one turn is true, because when you start off, you're going to start with player one playing. Okay, so what we're going to do is if it's player one's turn, and you're clicking, so when you say on click, button V, because what just happens is you can technically click on anything, but we want to make it clear that it's a button, and so this is called casting. We're going to cast it to a button. And we're going to set the text of this button V to X. And if it's not player one's turn, so that's what we do in the else case, then we're going to set it to O. Alright? And ignore this line for now. We'll deal with this line later. But basically what we did with this just simple if statement is if it's player one's turn, make it X. If it's not player one's turn, then we're going to make it a O. Alright? So now we set it to an X and O. Now the important thing to look at is what if, we went ahead and we set X and O, and now we need to check if someone wins or not, right? So for this to happen, we're going to create a function called win. And this function win will look at the board, and it will tell you if someone won or not. So it's going to give you a true or false. And so one thing you should know is that if I just simply type up, like let's just say 1 in this case, something new, and I do that, it'll give me a red thing. And if I click create method 1 in main activity, then it will create this thing for me, and then I can go ahead and write whatever I want inside this function. And that's something that's like pretty smart and pretty neat that I actually really like, and it makes sure that you don't, forget to write something or lose track of something. So yeah, so now I want to go ahead and write something that kind of checks if you win or not, right? So the way I'm going to check for win, and this is just a good idea to think about, is there really, a few cases where you can win. One case is like, all the rows, like everything in one row is an X or no, or everything in a column is X or no, or everything in the diagonal is X or O. So definitely smarter ways to do it, but the way I just did it here, which is pretty simple, is if you go through every row and you check that, so the first thing that I did is before I did that is I created like another 2D list, and this 2D list basically holds X or O. Instead of buttons, it just holds whether it's an X or it's an O. And so I went through every button, and I added to my field, I added the text. Right, so now this thing called field contains like maybe X, O, 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 X, 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 O, or whatever, like balanced out, but that. People with me so far? Things making sense? I know I'm really speeding through this, but we lost a bunch of time, so I want to make sure we get through the main parts of this code. Okay, stop me at any point if you have more questions. So what's going to happen now is I basically checked the 3 cases. I'm going to go through every single row, which is what I'm doing here, and I'm checking if like row I, 0 equals to 1, 0 equals to 2, and that it's not empty. So basically I'm going to check that it's not empty and they're all equal to each other. And if they are, then I'm going to return true. And the same way I'm going to check for a given column. I'm going to check if the column 0 and for a given column, row 0, row 1, row 2 are equal, and that they're not empty. And if that's what happens, then you're going to return true. And the same way you're going to do that for diagonals as well, and you return a true. Now the other thing that you want to do is you want to also keep track of how many times one has pressed. So if they have pressed 9 times and you have not won yet, then you want to know it's a draw. And also, like if you don't win or it's a draw, make sure you switch the turn. So now it's not player. If it was player 1 turns before, it becomes not player 1's turn. So make sure you do that. The last thing I want to just go over real quickly, and this is basically the idea of a toast. So toast, like I said, is just a small pop-up text that comes in the bottom that says, oh yeah, okay, player 1 won, player 2 won. And so when you call this function player 1 wins, right, in this case, you want to first go ahead and make sure you increase the points for player 1. And then you want to do toast.makeText. And you want to make sure your text says whatever you wanted to say, player 1 wins. And you want to also, in this case, you want to say toast.length is short. And then you're going to do something called update points, and I'm just going to really quickly go over what update points does. And what it basically does is you're going to take the text view that we had, and we're going to set the text to player 1 : whatever the new points is, instead of 0 what it initially was. So yeah, like I said, I will go do a proper tutorial for this, and I'm really sorry with all the technical inconveniences that we had. But I hope whatever little bit of what I said made some sense. And if you guys just simply run this, then you will be able to open up your emulator, and you'll be able to see whatever code you have done so far. So yeah, does anyone have any questions that they want to ask me? I know this is really quick. I'm glad this was helpful. Are all class activities event-based? Yeah. Yeah, so yes, these are event-based. So like I guess I was saying, when you go into Java, if you wanted to create like a new task, what you just do is you're gonna right-click, and you just say new, and you say it's a class. Each of them are basically different classes, and each of these classes have a bunch of functions within them, and then they have implementations. You can write whatever functions you want, and when you're calling the class, it will run whatever function you need to run.
So do you have to make transitions from class to class yourself?
Yes, actually there
Okay.
is. I guess I can talk about this again when I make that video for you guys, but there's a way to just, switch from one class to another, and this is like useful when you have a button, you click a button and it goes to a different page, then you're gonna have this transition to call the other button, or to call the other activity.
What if you have something that needs like a constant loop? Like if you have a game that isn't tic-tac-toe,
Mm-hmm.
and because not everything can be implemented just using like listeners, right?
Right, sure.
So if you have something that needs to be checked constantly, like how do you check something constantly? I guess this is out of the scope of the crash course. Like how do you check something constantly, but also move on to do like another activity?
Like what do you mean? I'm sorry.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of an example and I can't think of one.
But basically, you can kind of have listeners on everything. Like in this case, on click, but like for some other things, like on change listeners or things like that. And you're gonna just keep monitoring it. And sometimes something changes in that, then you will jump into that like function, and you'll be like, okay, let me go check what's happening.